Right, let's get into that. Results of class of 2021. They have been lauded for obtaining the highest number of bachelor passes in the history of the NSC examinations. And this was revealed by Education Minister Angie Motshekga when she announced the overall pass rate for the Matric class of 2021 at 76.4%. KwaZulu-Natal and Gauteng contributed the most bachelor passes with 117,704 between the two provinces. This is equivalent to 46% of the overall bachelor passes nationally. To help us unpack these results, as well as to look at the state of education in the country, we are joined by Professor Takalani Mashau from the University of Venda, as well as Professor Dan Kgwadi, who is the Vice-Chancellor of the University of the Northwest. Gentlemen, what a pleasure to have you. Thanks so much for joining us.
Good morning, viewers.
Prof. Mashau, let me begin with you. You know, there was, I suppose, expectation that the overall pass rate was certainly not going to be better than the year before. It is slightly better. Getting expectations, I suppose, a little bit squashed on its way up. I mean, what was your reaction to the results?
Firstly, I would like to congratulate Matric learners and parents and together with their teachers for the work that they have done. The teachers have supported these learners under very difficult conditions. The pandemic made it difficult for the learners to study. And also the load shedding when they were preparing for writing examinations. But they did very well under the circumstances.
Prof. Kgwadi, let me ask you the same question. Your reaction to these results?
Yes, indeed. As like the DG of the basic education, Mr. Mweli says, this was like overcoming adversity through resilience. There was resilience from the teachers, from the learners themselves, and all the support systems from the department. Indeed, a job well done. Yeah. Of course, when you look at it, you realize that there's when you compare these results with the pre-COVID results from both IEB and the basic education, there's a decline. But given the circumstances, this is excellent. A job well done.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly is. And I mean, when we look, it's almost hard to believe that under the circumstances that we've outlined over the last 2 years, to actually see the class of Matric doing much better, and especially when we talk about the bachelor passes. Now, I mean, this is a record amount of bachelor passes, the highest number in the history of the NSC examinations. What does this tell you? I mean, especially when you are sitting on the university level, and again, let me come to you, Prof. Mashau. Having this amount of bachelor passes, seeing the students hopefully reaching levels that we want to achieve in the country. I mean, what does this show for you?
This means that the universities are going to admit so many students who have bachelors. And I think it will be unfortunate for some of them because of the spaces at universities. But it's a matter of making sure that the universities receive the students and give them direction. That is what is supposed to be done. That's,
that obviously is a great worry now, because you are going to see a huge demand now to get into universities, and that is always the case at the beginning of the year. Many have already applied, and you'll see more applying now, perhaps if they have done better than expected. But the reality is that universities cannot handle the amount of students that are wanting to come and further their studies. I mean, Professor Kgwadi, let's look to that. The pressure that is now going to face universities.
Yes, and I think over and above the university's pressure, there's also a very huge pressure now on the funding system. Our NSFAS does not necessarily cope with the demand, and that will also be another pressure on the system. Yeah. I think what we need to look at is how we give career guidance to the students. The university must not be an obvious solution, an obvious option for going forward. There are universities of technology, there are also TVET colleges. So the career guidance must also give options to the different options that are there for our learners.
You know, when these students get to university level, are they equipped? And this is where we now speak to the education that our learners are actually getting in schools. Are they equipped to deal with what they face in university? I mean, let me again come to you, Professor Mashau. Do you feel that the education system is doing our learners well for the future? Because, you know, this is where there are question marks now. And, you know, one saying, do we need a refresher of some of the subjects that are offered, particularly life orientation? There seems to be a question mark over that. And do they have the correct skills to push them forward in life? I mean, what are you witnessing?
Yeah, in most cases, all universities will say that we are receiving students who are underprepared. So it's a matter of working with them at university because they are already there. If they are admitted at university, the university have to see to it that these students are built, are nurtured to such an extent that they will be future leaders of the country. So receiving underprepared students means that universities should work very hard so that they are prepared for the future.
This is the concern, and I mean it's not the first time that we're hearing that learners are not prepared when they are leaving school. So let me get your views on this, Prof, as well. I mean, where are we going wrong? Where is the education system going wrong? Prof Kgwadi, if you don't mind taking this.
Yes, I would say content-wise, you know, the learners and students are relatively there and they catch up quickly. The only gap that we pick up is, as you say, in life orientation. You know, their readiness to face life on their own, you know, from a system where there was proper support and additional support, and to be on their own, they be even more independent in terms of learning. That's where we need to close the gap.
You know, one of the things, and I know that one SA's Musi Maimane has been very outspoken about this, and he's been talking to how we rejig the education system. And one of the things that he was recommending was something like critical thinking, or to take life orientation and move it. You know, just perhaps not change it, but just add more modules into it, because it's just a subject that is not necessarily benefiting our learners. It's hard for me. I actually haven't seen what the life orientation looks like these days. I mean, I finished school quite a while ago, and my kids are nowhere near that level as yet. But I mean, is it equipping them enough? I mean, let's just focus on life orientation. Do they need more, like your critical thinking and things like that? Some of the comments that Musi Maimane has been suggesting.
Yes, I think the life orientation from the lower grades is very, very important. And also, I think it needs to be beefed up, especially in terms of teaching, because usually it's neglected as a subject which is not featuring the points of entering to university. But it will be very, very important for teachers to emphasize it and take it as most important subject amongst all the subjects that the learners are doing.
Prof Kgwadi?
Yes, indeed. I mean, one can never do enough when it comes to life orientation to prepare learners and prepare even adults in terms of the life skills. It's always very important to do everything we can. But I must say, perhaps when you talk about underpreparedness, we should not really exaggerate the situation. The only challenge that we usually get is because learners come from different systems, different school levels that are not as equipped in terms of, you know, resources. They are not equipped in the same manner. So there's always a gap between them. And one has to make sure that you close that gap before you can take them forward.
And this is something that's been spoken to for a very, very long time. I mean, closing that gap. It's become wider. It has become wider. I mean, whether we talk to this rotational school day where, I mean, for learners for the last 2 years have not been on campus for full weeks. I mean, there have been months at a time where they haven't set foot into a school. Yes, of course, they've been catching up as fast and furiously as they can. But I mean, you know, there is only so much that the learners can actually do. And they do need a lot more help from the state and from government. And I know that there's, you know, happiness that there has been an increase in the results. But, you know, one has to question how they have gone up under the circumstances. You know, it has to be a tough one. And I think time will tell when we talk to this dropout rate at universities. How high is the dropout rate in your university? I mean, let's have a look from the University of Venda's perspective. How bad is the dropout rate?
So far, I don't have the statistics of the dropouts, but mostly because I'm in the Faculty of Humanities, Social Sciences and Education.
Yeah,
we have the students. They are there. They are trying. Also, the lecturers are trying to make sure that they prepare these students. But dropout at this university, it's a little bit low.
Mm-hmm. What about on the perspective of the Northwest University?
Yeah, I can tell you, we were really pleasantly surprised or impressed, if I can say that, last year when Corona first hit. And the students and the learners, especially from first year, who had to go on online learning, that no one expected and they were not ready for. And the amount of work and energy that was put into that really surprised us. They did so well. It was less than even the years before. And the pass rate was even higher. That's why perhaps, as the DG says, you know, this is overcoming adversity through resilience. We have seen a lot of resilience from our learners, and we have also seen a lot of support from our lecturers to the students.
Yeah, I'm happy to hear this. I mean, this is a very sort of it's good conversations and good news going forward when we look at these results. And while we've got the Matrics, and I know many of them waking up and rushing to their schools or logging on or trying to find their results online just to get an idea as to how they have performed and what they have done. But there genuinely is a call for a real relook at South Africa's education system, and that we may, in some instances, be failing some of the learners that don't necessarily need to go to a university. And I know, Prof, you mentioned that in one of your earlier answers. You know, not everybody has to go to a university. There are many critical skills shortages in this country. Do we emphasize that enough? Do you think we base too much emphasis on the fact that you have to go in, get a degree or go into a tertiary education where you're studying your academics, you get this, and then there is actually nothing you can do with it. Whereas if you go out, you get a skill, you can actually do something. So let's talk to this perhaps.
Yeah,
exactly.
Our system takes all students to university. But if we have two streams where the academics go to academia and vocational and training becomes another stream, then we would have these diverse students who will go to university because they have ability to go to university. Look at the number of students who wrote Matric on progression, those who progressed from grade 11 to grade 12. That is a very high number. And it's not progressing at Matric level. But these students, we cannot say they are unable. But if they had chance or they have chance of going to other stream like vocational training, that will be helping them. And also it will help the society, the economy of the country. Because from both streams, you have academia, you have vocational training, they have skills, then you better the economy of the country.
Indeed. Prof. Kgwadi?
Yes, I must say, in a week's time or two, I'll be leaving the Northwest University to now go and lead Vaal University of Technology. I'm going to be focusing now on skills development and vocational training. Our learners must now not keep focusing on just doing a degree for the degree's sake. It's the question of what are you going to do with the degree? Yeah. What is the skill that you are going to be actually plowing into the country with that? At university level, and I must be very careful about what I'm going to say, we can offer a learner a degree in killing dinosaurs if he wants to know how to kill dinosaurs. We know they are already extinct. And perhaps with that skill, you can go and know how to kill elephants. That's what universities can do. But in terms of vocational and skills training, it's always very important to be specific and target where the need is.
Yeah. I mean, Prof, I to a certain extent, I could not agree with you more. And, the reality is, as we wrap this up, in the background, we have a 66% unemployment rate in the youth. So every young South African that's watching and have gotten their matric results and they're feeling that elation inside of them, 66% of those individuals are not going to find a job. And if we don't change things, that number is going to just keep on escalating. And the youth are those that we need to look at. So we're doing something wrong, that we are not looking after the youth of this country. So let me just wrap this up as we get into an ad break here. From both of you, what do we need to see changing? And what are your hopes and expectations for the education sector for 2022?
What I would like to, because for 2022 it's already here. Yeah. It's a matter of maybe if the pandemic is low, students go back or learners go back to school, and minimize rotational timetabling so that they learn. We go back to grade 1. So with grade 1s, you bring them once a week. They have forgotten what they have learned this week when they can come back. So I think if the pandemic can go down, then students go back to school. And then we look, the department looks at how can they add more subjects, so especially in vocational training, and equip technical high schools that are there, agricultural schools that are there at the moment. Yeah. I would be happy to see that.
All right. Prof. Kgwadi, firstly, let me wish you luck in your next position. I think it's very, very exciting. But let's get your hopes now.
Yes, I think what was really hurting in this period, the COVID period, was lack of vibrant student life. I think as the president is hoping to uplift the current state of the country that was brought by COVID, it will also be very good to see students getting back to their life, that is very vibrant. It's not only about the library and the laboratory. It's always about student life out there, how students can engage in extramural activities. They say, you cannot just be working on hard work or whatever makes Paul the dull boy. You just need to play as well and interact and be socially fit. I think this is the period where we realize that a little bit of stress, a little bit of tension on our students because of the lack of that. Yeah. I hope this time around we can now improve and on that engagement and interaction of students' life.
Absolutely, 100% agree with you. Student life is amazing, and I do hope that the class of 2021 and they move out of their schooling life into a new year, and I do hope that it offers them a lot more relief than last year. Prof, thanks very much to both of you, Professor Takalani Mashau from the University of Venda and Professor Dan Kgwadi, who's the Vice-Chancellor of the University of the Northwest, but moving over to technical universities. Now, I think it's in the Vaal. He'll be moving there in the next couple of months. We wish you the best of luck, but we thank both of you for joining us this morning. All right, let's quickly take a break and